In this series of videos, we're going to talk about customer value, and more specifically, we're going to walk through how to calculate an average customer value for a series that is in KU, so is both bought and borrowed. If you have a series that isn't in KU, you can just use the buy portion of the calculations. But before we do the calculations, I want to talk about customer value as a concept. It's tempting to think of each sale to a customer in isolation. And I do this myself when I run promos. I look at the promos on that title and whether I broke even or not. The problem is that you can't think of each customer sale in isolation. You need to think about a customer relationship and what that customer is worth to you over the lifetime of that relationship. Why is this important? Because if you don't think about the customer relationship and you only focus on the individual transaction, you're likely not going to spend enough to acquire new customers. The reason behind this is because if you have any sort of writing chops at all, people will likely read more than one book from you. If you write a 3-book series, you can expect that a certain percentage of people will read that entire series. And if you're really, really good, you're going to get really high sell-through, and that's what's going to make your career. Now, not everyone is going to read through a series. I have an entire bookcase of books I still need to read. So obviously, if I haven't read book 1 of that series, I haven't read book 2, 3, etc., even though I've purchased that book. And some people are going to read book 1 and not like it, and that's fine. But enough people should be reading through your entire series so that you're considering not just the value of that customer with respect to the sale of book 1, but the value of that customer with respect to the sale of your entire series. If you're primarily driving sales of book 1 through discounted promotion, so free first in series, 99-cent first in series, the read-through to the rest of your series is what is actually going to drive your profitability. So let's look at an example here that's somewhat extreme, but it gives a good illustration of what I'm talking about. Let's say in both situations, you sell your book 1 title for 99 cents. On Amazon, unless it's a countdown deal, that's going to be a 35% payout. So that sale, viewed in isolation, earns you 35 cents. That's not a lot to work with. And a lot of people make the mistake of thinking, well, then all I can spend to acquire that customer is 34 cents. But if that book 1 title is part of a longer series, let's say it's book 1 of a 10-book series, and the people actually read the entire 10-book series, which is another question there, but that it's part of a 10-book series, and that the rest of those titles are priced at $4.99, which is a 70% payout, and you get about $3.50. Let's also assume that for every 10 sales of book 1, 4 customers buy your entire series. So let's go look at that real quick. I've already built this just because it's boring to build, but I'll show you what it is. So we have our 10 customers, customers 1 through 10. And this is book 1. Everybody buys book 1. You get 35 cents from every single customer. 4 of your 10 customers, that's our last 4 here, also read the rest of your series. So they all read book 2, 3, 4, etc. So this is 10 total titles. So customers 1 through 6 who only buy book 1 are only worth 35 cents to you. Customers 7, 8, 9, and 10 are worth almost $32 to you. $31.85. All 10 customers combined are worth close to $130 to you. You've got your 35-cent customers, which are the bulk of it, but then you've got your $32 customers. And between them, they make you $130 for every 10 sales you get. Divide that number by 10, and each customer, on average, is worth $12.95 to you. Now we're going to assume there's no way for you to narrow it down to customers 7 through 10. If there were, that would be fantastic. So when you sell your product, you don't know whether you have a customer 10 who's worth $32 to you or a customer 1 who's worth 35 cents to you. All you know is that on average, if you can sell to 10 customers, each of those customers will be worth about $13 to you, which means you could spend up to $12.94 to acquire a new customer and still be making a profit. Now, obviously, you want better margins than that, but technically, if you're making $12.95 per customer and you spend $12.94 to get that customer, that's still profitable. Another example to look at is the perma-free title. This is where you set book 1 to free and it is always free. So how much should you be willing to pay to advertise that freebie? If you were just looking at book 1 by itself, the answer would be nothing. Because giving away a title, you're not earning money. But people do it. And why do they do it? They do it because a certain number of people buy the rest of the series. Now let's go back to the example we had a second ago and say that 1 in 10 people who read the freebie go on to buy the entire series. In this scenario, you would be willing to spend up to $3 to give away your book. Now, I will tell you that this is not a good number, the 10. I'm just using it because we used it in the last example. For me, it's more like 100. So when I've put titles to perma-free, for every 100 downloads of that first title, I had 1 sale of the collection, which would mean taking this number and dividing it by 10. So it's more like 30 cents on a 10-book series. But when you run free promos, you'll find that it's, 2 cents, 3 cents, 5 cents a download. If you're paying 25 cents for a download of a freebie, then you need to look for other options for running freebies. Hopefully you understand now why the concept of a customer value is so important. So that's what we're going to do in the next couple of videos. We're going to calculate an average customer value for an existing series that has both buys and borrows.